I imagine you have heard about the city of Krakow before, but have you ever heard of the dragon that lived in Krakow? The legend of the Dragon of Babel Hill is closely tied with the foundation of the city. It is a story that involves the aforementioned dragon, a king, two princes, and sometimes a shoemaker. Krakow started at Babel Hill and soon became one of Europe's most beautiful cities. Nowadays, on top of Babel Hill, we can find some of the most culturally significant buildings in all of Poland: the Wawel Royal Castle and the Wawel Cathedral. Come on and let's learn about the crown jewel of Krakow and the former seat of Polish royalty. Wawel Hill is undoubtedly a mythical place with a rich history that gave way to the marvelous city of Krakow. Evidence of a settlement from the Stone Age has been found at Wawel Hill, meaning people already lived in the area more than 5,000 years ago. Nevertheless, Wawel Hill's known history starts with the legend of Smok Wawelski, or the Dragon of Wawel Hill. As with most legendary tales, there are many varying versions. However, I will recount the oldest written one that dates back to the 13th century. During the reign of King Cracus, a legendary king that is considered to have founded Krakow, a cruel and terrible dragon appeared at Wawel Hill. This dragon will terrorize the inhabitants of the city and would only be appeased by a weekly ration of cattle. In case his ration of cattle wasn't met, he would devour the villagers instead. In popular retellings of the story, it is said that the evil dragon would beat a path of destruction across the countryside by killing the civilians, pillaging their homes, and devouring their livestock. So King Cracus sent his two sons to slay the dragon in order to save the villagers. Both tried fighting the dragon, but were no match to the ferocious monster. Instead, they realized that the only way to defeat the devilish creature was to outsmart it. Thus, the princes came up with the ingenious idea of lacing the dragon's weekly ration of cattle with burning sulfur. When the dragon swallowed its offering, he suffocated from the flames blazing within. Seeing how the dragon was defeated, the younger prince decided to kill his brother and blame the dragon for his demise. This would allow the younger son to be the only remaining heir to the throne. The plan was perfect, as King Cracus believed the ruse and hailed his son as the savior of Krakow. Until, not long after, the crime was discovered and the younger son was sentenced to eternal exile. Hence, the throne went to King Cracus's daughter, Wanda, another legendary ruler of Krakow. King Cracus and Princess Wanda are important figures of Krakow's lore, which can be noted by their legendary graves. Krakow's Mound and Wanda Mound are assumed to be the resting sites of each of the ancient rulers of the city. Now, let's talk about the differing versions of the legend of the Wawel dragon. First, we have to talk about the dragon itself. At no point in the original story was there a mention of an actual dragon. Instead, a terrible and cruel beast is mentioned. The beast became a dragon when the story was translated from Latin into Polish, and that reference has stuck since then. Along with the dragon not being named a dragon, the Polish chronicle never mentions Wawel Hill by name. It only mentions that the beast lived in the depths of a certain rock, which is assumed to be Wawel Hill, as it is the closest hill to the historical Old Town. So a case could be made that the Wawel dragon is neither a dragon or related to Wawel Hill, but that's not here nor there. In terms of what changes from version to version, the biggest question is who actually defeated the dragon. Some versions say it was King Cracus himself who came up with the idea of feeding the dragon burning sulfur. Others credit a shoemaker named Skob or Dratevka with the idea. As for the versions that recognize Cracus' sons as the dragon slayers, there are doubts on which son killed the other. In the original version, the younger one killed his brother, but there are other accounts that say the older prince killed his younger brother instead. Regardless, the legend of the Dragon of Wawel Hill was the origin of Wawel Hill's significance in Polish history. In the following centuries, Wawel Hill became a symbol of Poland. From the times of King Cracus until the mid-11th century, little is known about Wawel Hill. It is assumed that it was a major holding for the Vistulans as they established their capital in Krakow. In the 10th century, the city became Polish when Mieszko I conquered it. Its Polish rulers brought along Catholicism, a religion that has played an enormous role in Krakow's history. By the early 11th century, the city was the leading center of trade under the rule of the Polish state. Brick buildings were being constructed atop of Wawel Hill, including a pre-Romanesque palace and the first Wawel Cathedral. Wawel Cathedral is arguably the main attraction of Wawel Hill, and debatably the most important building for most of Krakow's history. It serves as a national sanctuary and was the coronation site of Polish monarchs. The current Gothic cathedral is the third iteration of the cathedral. The first was constructed around the year 1000 in a Romanesque style, but it was destroyed shortly afterwards. The second one was constructed in the turn of the 11th and 12th centuries. It also had a Romanesque style and was consecrated in 1142. In 1245, the relics of Saint Stanislaus were moved to the cathedral. Saint Stanislaus is the patron of Poland who served as Bishop of Krakow and was martyred by the Polish king Bolesław II the Bold. He is commemorated in the cathedral's official name, Archcathedral Basilica of Saint Stanislaus and Saint Wenceslaus. Unfortunately, the second cathedral was destroyed by a fire in 1305. Nevertheless, even in ruins, Wawel Cathedral was the site of the coronation of Władysław I Łokietek on January 20, 1320. From that day on, the cathedral became the coronation site and burial place of Polish royalty. By 1346, construction of the present-day Gothic-style cathedral had started, and was finished in 1364. Something characteristic of the cathedral is that many kings, bishops, and nobles built or rebuilt chapels to serve as mausoleums. Today, there are two main chapels next to the cathedral, the Baroque Vasa Chapel and the Renaissance Sigismund's Chapel. The latter was built in the 16th century at the behest of King Sigismund I the Old. Sigismund's Chapel is one of the most beautiful buildings at Wawel Hill that you cannot skip. During the partitions of Poland, the interior of Wawel Cathedral began to be decorated in a late Baroque style. However, sackings during the Swedish Deluge and the instability due to the partitions of Poland caused the cathedral to decline. Hence, the cathedral underwent several restoration works during the 19th and 20th century. Even in those dark times, the cathedral remained the most important place of worship in Poland. Shortly after, it became a Polish pantheon for the many national heroes, whose tombs received many visitors every day. In addition, Wawel Cathedral and the life of Pope John Paul II were heavily intertwined. As Karol Wojtyła, he offered his first Mass as a priest and was also ordained Krakow's auxiliary bishop at the cathedral. Today, Wawel Cathedral is a symbol of Polish statehood and faith, and it hosts important religious events and annual celebrations. Tickets for Wawel Cathedral cost 25 zloty or $6.83 and can be bought inside or online on the website I have linked in the description box. Each ticket gives you access to Wawel Cathedral, Sigismund's Bell, the Royal Tombs, the Cathedral Museum, and the Archdiocesan Museum. These are the opening hours for the cathedral and the Cathedral Museum. I do want to point out that entry to the hill itself is free, meaning you can walk around the central courtyard on top of the hill at no charge. Now, to enter both Wawel Cathedral and Wawel Royal Castle, you do have to buy a ticket. Speaking of the Wawel Royal Castle, the hill wasn't always adorned by such a gorgeous building. At the beginning, Wawel Hill only had a hall with 24 pillars, or essentially a defensive residence that I will refer to as Wawel Palace. Based on archaeological evidence, it is assumed that Wawel Palace was a Romanesque structure. It was built after Kraków came under Polish rule in the late 10th century. The remains of the foundations of Wawel Palace are located in the northern wing of the present-day castle. In 1038, Casimir I the Restorer made Kraków the Polish capital, thus transforming Wawel Hill into the seat of the government. Krakow's new denomination warranted the palace to be enlarged. Over time, Wawel Palace was expanded eastwards to become a suitable residence for Polish monarchs and their courts. Little is known of these renovations and expansions, but they served as the foundation to what would later become one of the most beautiful castles in Europe. In the 14th century, Casimir III the Great completely revamped the palace. From 1330 to 1370, he transformed the palace that was still reminiscent of a defensive structure to a proper Gothic castle. An imposing Gothic residence was built, which consisted of several buildings grouped around an irregular courtyard. This expansion gave the castle its current layout, that makes it such a unique building. Although this iteration of the castle was absolutely stunning, it still didn't resemble today's version. After a fire in 1499, Polish kings decided to rebuild the castle in a Renaissance style. The rebuilding of Wawel Castle was a task taken up by several Jagiellonian monarchs, but history tends to focus on Sigismund I the Old. from 1507 to 1536, Sigismund I made the most progress in the Renaissance rebuilding of the castle. It was Sigismund's connection with early Renaissance artists and contributions by his Italian-born wife, Bona Sforza, which led to the construction of a fine example of the Renaissance. The task was commissioned to several talented Italian architects. Among them was Bartolomeo Berrecci, who also built Sigismund Chapel. The finished castle was considered an avant-garde structure, as by that time the Renaissance had not yet reached Poland. The architects managed to retain some of the Polish Gothic features that made the castle an even greater work of art. After the capital was moved to Warsaw, Babel Hill entered a period of decline and misfortune like the rest of the city. After another fire in 1595, a part of the castle's northern wing was rebuilt in an early Baroque style by Sigismund III Vasa. This was the last major renovation Babel Castle would see in more than 3 centuries. From then on, Poland suffered a couple of Swedish invasions, 3 partitions, and many uprisings that resulted in Babel Castle being besieged, ransacked, and occupied a myriad of times. It wasn't until the Austrian troops left Babel in 1905 that restoration works could be performed on the decaying castle. However, money became an issue as the restoration was seen as a Polish issue, not an Austrian one. This led to an influx of several donations from Polish people that wanted to see its beacon of Polish resistance restored. Thus, the renovation of Babel Castle was essentially funded by public Polish subscription. As a fun fact, the names of the donors were inscribed on the bricks used to build the wall near the castle's northern gateway. The 20th century renovation restored the royal castle's Renaissance style, along with its Baroque and Gothic features. Since then, it has remained almost completely unchanged, greatly in part to Krakow seeing minimal destruction during either of the 2 world wars. Today, Babel Castle is one of Poland's most visited museums and one of the best things to do in Krakow. Unfortunately, Babel Castle's majesty is contrasted by one of the most complicated ticket systems I have ever encountered. Bear with me, and here we go. There are 3 main types of tickets: tickets for temporary exhibitions, for seasonal exhibitions, and for permanent exhibitions. Temporary exhibitions are what you'd expect. They are only available for a limited amount of time. They can vary throughout the year, and you can choose to buy separate tickets to visit temporary exhibitions only. There's a caveat here, though, as some temporary exhibitions can only be accessed as part of a seasonal or permanent exhibition ticket. In mid-August 2025, there are 2 temporary exhibitions that can be visited by themselves, those being Jacek Machewski in Anatolia and Babel Castle on old postcards. Tickets for both cost 5 zloty or $1.37. Seasonal exhibitions are only open from July to October or until September in the case of the Royal Gardens. The seasonal exhibitions are the Royal Gardens, the Babel Town and Viewing Platform, the Dragon's Den, and the Sandomierska Tower. Tickets for the Royal Gardens cost 9 zloty or $2.46, and it includes entry to any temporary exhibitions inside the gardens. In mid-August 2025, that will be the Abakanowicz No Rules sculptures. Tickets for the Dragon's Den and the Sandomierska Tower also cost 9 zloty or $2.46. The Dragon's Den is a legendary cave in the western slope of Babel Hill that has a sculpture of the Babel Dragon at its exit. Finally, tickets for the Babel Town and Viewing Platform cost 19 zloty or $5.19. Here you can experience one of Krakow's best viewpoints, as long as the weather complies. Permanent exhibitions are open year-round and refer to different areas of the castle. As you can imagine, these are by far the most popular ones and the tickets people tend to buy the most. Thus, if you are visiting in the summer, it is recommended to buy in advance. I have linked the website in the description box for you to buy tickets, or you can risk availability and buy them at the castle. There are 5 ticket options for these exhibitions. Castle 1 comprises everything on the first floor of the castle, including any temporary exhibitions located on that floor. Its tickets cost 49 zloty or $13.39, and also allow access to the Babel Recovered exhibition and the Royal Gardens. Castle 2 comprises everything on the second floor of the castle, including any temporary exhibitions on that floor. Its tickets cost 43 zloty or $14.49, and also allow access to the Royal Gardens. Castle Underground comprises the Lost Babel and Babel Underground, the Lapidarium exhibitions. Its tickets cost 43 zloty or $11.75, and also allow access to 2 seasonal exhibitions, the Royal Gardens, and the Church of St. Gerion. The Crown Treasury is its own exhibition, but its tickets also include entry to the Royal Gardens. The Grand Treasury tickets cost 43 zloty, or $11.75. And lastly, the Between the Walls Wawel Underground, whose tickets cost 29 zloty, or $7.93, and only allow entry to that exhibition. Now, there are also 3 combined ticket options available, but they do tend to be pricier. There is a Castle combined ticket that is essentially the Castle 1 and Castle 2 tickets coupled into one. This is the ticket I suggest buying if you want to fully experience Wawel Castle. There is no better option for visiting the entire castle grounds. That is a fact. I mean, if you're going to Wawel Castle, you might as well get to see the whole thing, right? This combined ticket does have a price of 89 zloty, or $24.33, which is higher than any of the individual tickets. However, it pales in comparison to the other 2 combined tickets. If you want to see everything, everything, on Wawel Hill, except for the Wawel Cathedral, as those tickets are only sold by the cathedral itself, then the Wawel for Enthusiasts ticket is for you. At a whopping 180 zloty, or $49.20, it is definitely a pretty penny, but it is the best ticket for any Wawel Hill lovers. According to the website, it is the perfect option for anyone who would like to spend many hours visiting all the exhibitions at Wawel Royal Castle. This ticket will allow you to access every single temporary, seasonal, and permanent exhibition, plus selected areas of Pieskowa Skała Castle and Strzyżów Manor House. As a disclaimer, Pieskowa Skała Castle is 34 minutes away from Krakow, and Strzyżów Manor House is an hour away from Krakow, so be mindful of that. The third combined ticket is called Wawel the Most Precious. This option is a guided tour that lasts 2 hours and 20 minutes and visits Castle 1, Castle 2, Castle Underground, and the Crown Treasury exhibitions. This guided tour costs 135 zloty, or $36.90, and is available from Tuesday through Sunday. And as a bonus, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Mondays, there are selected exhibitions that are free to enter. Yet, you need to pick up one of the free admission tickets that grant you access to the exhibitions. These tickets are limited, so be mindful that later in the day they might not be available. Also, check on the website what exhibitions are free to enter during each month. If you are in Krakow on a Monday, you should consider grabbing a free ticket. I hope you enjoyed this guide on Wawel Hill and its attractions. If you want to know more about what to do in Krakow, go watch this video. Please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a like. Don't hesitate in leaving a question, something I missed, or your own experience at Wawel Hill in the comment section. God bless you and have a great day.